Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. Now, I don't often look at the online discussions, the forums. I don't spend a lot of time monitoring other people's YouTube channels and stuff, but I do try to pay attention to the kinds of things that are important to other guys who collect clocks and watches. I have my own tastes, and I'm kind of set in my ways. Certain types of clocks and watches I really like, and you can suggest other ones, and sometimes I'll say, hey, that's a pretty good idea, I'll check it out. And other times I'll say, no, I'm kind of set in my ways, and I'll just look at what I like to look at. But occasionally I get some comments on my videos, and I see some comments online, and people are talking about things, and sometimes I'm just kind of confused at what people are into. And one thing that kind of struck me in particular is a little bit confusing. Well, two, actually. Let's talk about solar-powered watches, okay? Tough solar, if you're into Casio, that's what they call it. So solar-powered watch, and so what it does with these, they have a solar cell built into the face of the watch, and exposure to just normal lighting is that's enough light on that solar cell to charge up the battery that's in there. Okay, and I'm gonna call it a battery. I know some people want to be really particular and say it's a capacitor, and I don't know. A capacitor, could you technically say a capacitor is a type of battery? I don't know. You can argue that amongst yourselves. All I know is that if I ever need to change that capacitor or battery in here, I'll just make sure I get the right thing to change that out, and then I'll be okay. Whether it's a capacitor or a battery, I'm just going to make sure it's the same thing if I ever need to open this up and change that out. So, but here's the thing. People want to know, how long can I leave this watch in the dark and it'll still be running, at the end of a long duration sitting in a dark drawer? And the thing is, Casio will tell you on watches like these. It'll say, for certain watches, 3 months in the dark and it'll still be running if you start with a charged up power cell inside your solar powered watch. Some watches 6 months, some 8, 10, I think maybe 10 is probably the longest. And I'm just thinking, again, folks, if your objective is to get a solar powered watch and then store it in a dark place long term, I don't understand why you want that watch. Okay? So it's amusing, a little bit annoying, and if someone asks me again, hey, how long can that watch stay in the dark and still be good? I'm going to say 3 days. I'm going to tell you something that if you really want it to be good, here's the thing. And this is, again, people discussing this online on YouTube videos and user forums and things. The common consensus out there seems to be that these types of solar-powered watches run best when you keep them charged up in the upper percentages of fully charged. Okay, maybe it doesn't have to stay 100% charged every day. Maybe it can fluctuate sometimes because maybe you're not always going to leave it in a well-lit place or outside and keep it charged up 100%. But you should try to keep it maybe above 60% all the time. And this tends to help the battery or capacitor last longer. But if you have a habit of charging it up all the way and then sticking it in a drawer for 6 months and draining it out all the way and then charging it back up, and these kinds of major fluctuations in the amount of charge, that will, according to the consensus, limit the amount of the number of years this thing will be able to run before you have to change out that battery in there. So, but again, I just think, why do you want to leave it in the dark for so long? It's a solar-powered watch. Now, I have watches, I don't wear them, every one of them, every single day. But I have these cases with a glass top, so I can leave them on the shelf or somewhere where they get a little bit of light every day, and that keeps them going. If I only had a couple of these, I'd just leave them on a shelf in my office or in my bedroom or somewhere where they just get exposure to just normal lighting. Indoor lighting is fine, but not sticking in a dark drawer. Anyway, the other thing that people ask me, and I see people talking about this, and it just kind of, People say, you know, the new Casio watches, the G-Shocks, that use LEDs for a backlight instead of electroluminescence, that's a deal breaker for me. I hate the way the LED looks. I will never buy a watch like that, they say. Someone's going to pull that as a quote out of context of me saying that and think that I said that. I was quoting another person who said, deal breaker, I can't stand the LED backlight. And, you know, there are a lot of great watches from Casio. This is one of them that has an LED for a backlight. And people say, deal breaker, never buy it. And I think it's a good watch. You sound as though you think the only time you're going to look at the time on this watch is when it's dark. The only time you're going to use it is when the light has to come on. Because how could that be a deal breaker otherwise? If, you know, you look at the watch 100 times a day and 98 or 99 of those times is going to be just like this, where you don't need the backlight, then why is the backlight a deal breaker for you? Because it doesn't quite look as nice as the electroluminescence version of such a watch or a backlight versus just, you know, the LED that's on there. I don't know. I don't understand. You know, when Casio tells you how long will a watch go between battery changes, especially if it's like a watch that's not solar powered. They'll say, based on the idea that you use the alarm once a day and that you use the backlight once a day. And then the battery will last 10 years or 5 years or whatever they said it's going to be. So Casio does not expect you to be pushing that that light button all the time and running that light, 50 times a night looking at your watch. They don't expect that. And I don't expect that either. And so to me, the idea that, the backlight doesn't look perfect, therefore it's a deal breaker. I don't know. I've done another video. I've talked about the advantages of LED versus electroluminescence. It is more energy efficient, and long term, it tends to hold up better, LED versus electroluminescence. And to me, it looks fine. The thing is, when I need to see what time it is at night and the light comes on, I can see what time it is. Now, if it's not exactly the right color, or there's a bright spot on this side versus that side, I can still see it. So I just don't understand. Anyway, I want to get it off my chest. I don't mean to put anyone down if these are big deals to you. And I know sometimes it seems like in this watch collecting community, we're kind of OCD about things. Someone could accuse me of being a little too particular about my tastes when I say, well, I prefer a multiband 6 watch over a non-multiband 6 watch. Given the choice, I'd go with multiband 6. Well, but I haven't said that non-multiband 6 is a deal breaker, right? I've said that, given the choice, I would really avoid negative LCD versus positive LCD. But do I say that's a deal breaker? No, I have several negative LCD watches. I tend to prefer the ones that are positive LCD, but I've never said, I'll never buy one of those. But there are different versions of watches that I have that have negative LCD, and I just am not inclined to buy them. So maybe I'm just guilty as anyone who says that the LED is a deal breaker, but I don't know. I'm not gonna make like a crusade out of it. All right. I'm not gonna go commenting on people's videos and say, negative LCD, deal breaker. I hate that watch. I'm gonna give a thumbs down on your video. So anyway. Those are two things that have been on my mind, and I just thought I need to say something. Solar-powered watches should be allowed to get a little bit of light every day, and LED backlights on watches are okay. Anyway, that's all for now. I'm going to calm down, and I will soon make another, much more fun video right here on the Good Timekeeping Show.